gonna, yes. Hide. So I'm gonna talk today about the power of storytelling in science and focusing on framing research as your journey. So first of all, a bit of background about myself. So I'm French citizen, and then I moved to Switzerland at EPFL to do an engineer diploma, a master in life sciences, and then a PhD on behavioral neuroscience in the lab of Carmen Sandy, studying models of rats with different stress adaptability. And then I moved to France, in south of France, in Montpellier, to do two different postdocs on mice model of autism, studying social interaction, but also building home cage monitoring systems to see the social dynamics in the groups and also the somatosensory effects, maybe in mouse model of autism. That's during my second postdoc. I joined Costi Time and the Behavior Forum. And I decided last year to leave academia, but not to leave science. So that's why I founded recently a consulting company to share my expertise in behavioral neuroscience. Recently, on the transmitter.org, I found two really interesting articles, actually about science communication. One of those is from Nicole Rust. So she really welcomes people and neuroscientists to do at least one public outreach in 2025. And she mentions that it is really a nice way and a joyful way to reconnect with your passion, because when you do that, you have to clarify your ideas, you have to bridge the gap between science and society. And another article from last week focusing on neuroscience and mental health research. And also they are mentioning that people and scientists must advocate for research, and they should share their personal stories. They should simplify the complex concept that they are dealing with every day. And they are welcoming and inviting people to engage with different communities to create link and to bridge science and society. So 5 bullet points here, which are a good way to do science communication, is first to reconnect with your why. Why are you a scientist? Why are you involved in science? What is your passion about? Where does it come from? And this, in a way, will make science more relatable. People that will listen to the talk, that will look at you, will understand that they're not that different. And the relation between you, your story, and the science that you're doing is really important. Then doing the outreach in different communities, for example, is really a way to build different bridges. And that's one of the key points, to have really a nice network and a stronger outreach with different bridges. The storytelling, it could be done by framing science as impactful. So always trying to find how your research has some societal issues that it's trying to address. This will most of the time reach some empathy in the public, and it's really important for people to relate if there is some empathy. And then you can connect to solutions. Your science can lead to real-world applications. And this should be true for all the different scientific communications, and especially with broad and normal audience. And one of the most difficult part, but critical, is to craft your story. So finding your narrative arc. What's your inspiration? What are the challenges you have been through? And what's the impact that your research is doing? I like this sentence. They may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think it's really important to consider, because it is true for every communication you're doing. You will never remember any of my sentences, maybe some of my slides, but maybe the feeling of what I said if I manage to do it properly. And this is true for all the different scientific communications. This, I learned it when I was doing my PhD. So in Switzerland, I had a private defense. So I did PhD defense in front of 5 experts. And this was really manageable, because I was talking about my science, my results, my research, and they were understanding everything of what I was saying. So the discussion was pretty easy in a way. But then I had to do a public defense, and this was much more challenging because my family and my friends came to see me, and I had to explain to my mom, to my grandmother, what I did for 4 years. And this was a real challenge. And this taught me that one of the critical points is to adapt to your audience. What are you doing today? You're doing a lab meeting, so you're talking to your peers, you can go straight to the results. You're in a scientific conference, they might have a really nice scientific baggage, so you must balance detail and clarity. If it's a general audience, you really have to explain the concept really simply and avoid the jargon. And if you're doing a webinar and you don't know actually who you're talking to, it's another challenge. But in general, always aim for clarity. Assume that the audience may need more explanation than expected. And this is really true because if you do not do that, you might actually do the worst effect, which is someone that has the scientific background to understand, but your explanation is not clear. You might lose that person during the presentation. And there is nothing worse than losing someone that has the knowledge because your explanation is not clear. So now I want to illustrate this with an example. So it comes from the last preprint that I published on bioRxiv, and I'm not expecting you to understand any of that, but I want to explain in 3 different contexts what I could say about this. So if I'm in a lab meeting, I'm gonna focus on the research and the feedbacks. I'm gonna remind quickly the project, the experiment that I was doing. So I was using mice that are a model of autism, SHANK3 knockout. I was applying a filament in the neck of the mice and I was looking at a scratching response. In red, you can see the scratching response, and I can assume and conclude that my SHANK3 mouse model is hypersensitive to touch. But then I'm gonna show the latest results. And here really do not try to understand. There are like pharmacological manipulations to manipulate or not some specific somatosensory fibers. But in short, people in the lab meeting will understand and it will raise some discussion. And this is what I'm looking for. In the context of the lab meeting, I want feedbacks from my peers, from my PI, from my colleagues. I want to discuss the protocol, the results, and this is what I'm doing. I'm in a scientific conference, in a pain conference. The researcher might have a really nice context and understanding of the somatosensory system, but they might not know really nicely the mice model of autism. So I could show them some textbook images of the SHANK3 scaffolding protein in the postsynapse. This might unlike their knowledge about what it is. Then I can show the mechanisms and I could actually use the images and the figures from my paper to illustrate what I'm saying, and they will understand the skin nerve recordings and the transcriptomics data pretty well. And then I can show them another image that they will relate. They will know the context, and they will might make some sense for them as it does not for you. I understand. And lastly, I'm talking to a general audience. So here it's really harder because they are non-scientists and they are unfamiliar with any specific aspects, ASD, itch, or somatosensation. So I could try to introduce the subject with, have you ever wondered how something as simple as an itchy feeling could teach us about autism? Indeed, because autism is really not just about social deficits. It is involving sensory issues like being hyper or hyposensitive to different sensory modalities, sound, touch, and light. And then could go deeper in the complexity of the somatosensory system and what is itch. It's the scratchy sensation, and I'm using mice that are a model of autism, and I could explain the protocol really nicely and easily. And then I could discuss the results, not showing the graphs, the complicated XY axis graphs, but maybe just words, some images or some tables to show what my results are about. And at the end, trying to make a closing that is about the sensory differences in autism that could be linked to the skin and nerve responses, maybe something that could resonate to the public. In general, something that I always try to use when doing a presentation is to consider that what is clear to me is not for others. So I'm drafting, reviewing, taking some feedbacks, and improving the story. So to do that, it's really important to have some fresh eyes, colleagues, friends, and now LLMs are really powerful tools. And then trying to step back and be self-critical on what you're presenting to people. Another little tip that I would like to share is that if you use clear slides, it will ease the understanding of people. Trying not to overload the site and the visual system will help you to have clear images. Also try to avoid the old school template that was used 20 years ago. and minimizing the text and the slide elements, and maybe focusing the attention with animations, because you can have more content, but focusing and highlighting some specific content. But for today, I think the two important aspects are that if you want to frame research as your journey, you really have to reconnect with your why and think about what made you a scientist, or why you're involved in science. And then this will really help you to make science relatable. So thank you very much, and thank you to Masha for this organization. And just one little advertisement with the Behavior Forum. We are launching the Understanding Behavior virtual workshop starting next Wednesday. So we are waiting for you there. Thank you very much.